Testing, testing.
Hey, check 1, 2. Oh, you got it. All right.
Testing, testing. Now, I don't know what happened with.
I think we're all live. That sounds,
There we go. So none of this counted. We got to do the pledge again.
All right,
no.
that's up.
For the 4 people that will watch it, I think they will trust. All right, after a short break for a technical difficulty, we're talking about some filming that is going to be happening at the old Indiana's property across the street. So we've got an agreement with them to use that property and the parking lot next to it for a little bit. And they're going to put a mural on the Tappan Market wall briefly, and they've already taken out a couple bollards, and I think they've fixed a hole in the pavement. So I believe that's correct.
Potentially, they will be, yes. And just so it's on the recording now, they are looking at filming it July 14th now instead of this week.
Financial report. Our treasurer is absent, but there has been no significant changes in the funds other than the normal outflow of payments for lots of legal fees over the past few months. Nothing on our old business, new business. We do have a proposal relating to additional soil testing related to the Pierce property, related to the underground storage tanks that are on that property. As a part of the purchase and sale agreement for the property, we are going to clean up. It seems like there is a little bit of soil contamination associated with the underground storage tanks, not particularly significant, compared to many underground storage tanks. It's a really clean site. I believe what is the amount on the proposal? $22,000 sticks in my mind.
That's right. 22 plus, yeah.
$22,050.
$22,050 for drilling 3 additional test holes, in appropriate locations adjacent to those underground storage tanks. But as a part of the purchase and sale agreement, once we are scheduled to close on our purchase and sale agreement with the Pierce family is such that we need to close by December 15th. With the purchase and sale agreement for the overall property to Greystar Vantage, that will happen roughly a year from now. And so what we're going to do is in between the time period of our purchase of the Pierce property and the sale of the property to Greystar Vantage, we're going to clean up those underground storage tanks, remove those, clean up any of the soils. So this is an initial round of testing to confirm the level of contamination associated with those. We will develop our environmental engineer will actually, I think it's technically their environmental engineer. I think GeoHydro was initially hired by Greystar Vantage as their consultant. We're going to work with them to develop a plan of action that's agreeable to the purchaser. Then the overall costs, initial costs are roughly $75,000 to do the work. We will pay for the work, and we're going to split those costs up to, I want to say, the first $200,000. If it goes beyond that, the purchaser will pay for all those additional costs. Just to give you a little bit of context of.
Will the DDA get to see a final copy of that PSA?
See a final copy of what?
The PSA?
We have it. I can send it to you.
I'd love that, yeah.
Yeah.
Regarding the cleanup, how many tanks are there?
There are 5 underground storage tanks total volume is about 65,000 gallons, I think.
But they're empty right now, right?
They are empty. They've been empty for a number of years. It's just, this is something that needs to be done. Those tanks have been monitored as a part of Georgia's EPD program. You know, all underground storage tanks are registered with the Georgia Department of Environmental Protection. There was a slight bobble a couple of years ago when the previous operator of those tanks, the Walthall Oil, vacated the property, and then Pierce has been managing that. And there was a little bit of a bobble in registering the owner of those tanks as it went from Walthall to Pierce. Not a significant thing. Georgia EPD has pushed us to get those tanks cleaned up as quickly as possible, which is why we're doing this immediately after. We're going to basically have the plan ready to go so that immediately after we own the property, we'll get the contractor out there to do the work. And so we're doing it this way just to accelerate the process as much as we can, just to make sure that it is done and taken care of before we sell the property. So it's
Is there any kind of estimation on how long the cleanup might take?
a month.
Okay.
You know, I mean, 5 tanks is not inconsiderable. You know, it sounds like the amount of contaminated soil associated with those tanks is really pretty minor. So all things considered, this is a real straightforward process. You know, I think all of the tanks out there are double-walled tanks, and so they regularly are able to, and what that means is it's basically a tank inside of a tank, which means that they can test the gap, the contents of the gap in between the 2 tanks, so that they understand if anything is leaking out of the inner tank, long before it would even leak out of the secondary tank. I believe that's the situation. Don't quote me on that. But so this should be a pretty straightforward process. I think they'll pull the tanks, crush them on location. They're steel tanks. They'll crush them on location and have them hauled off for recycling and you know, handling appropriately. And then I think the contaminated soil will be hauled off to an appropriate disposal location that is licensed to handle that material. So relatively straightforward, all things considered. It's just something that needs to be done. So which circles back, what we've got is we've got a proposal for $22,050 to do this additional round of testing that I would like the board's approval to authorize that work. So maybe in an amount not to exceed $25,000 or whatever you might feel appropriate.
I make a motion that the chair sign an agreement with GeoHydro for a proposal or to do the work to a 3rd round of testing on the Pierce property site for an amount not to exceed $22,050.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. That motion passes. Public comment, we have no public. Alex, do you have any comment tonight? No, we have no comment. We have no executive session tonight. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn?
All those in favor? Second. That motion passes unanimously, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much.